Hello and welcome to the Circuits and Boards channel. What we do here is we review video games or tabletop games, kind of break them down, see what's valuable, see what's beneficial, see what's really good to dedicate your time to. Today on the docket it looks like we've got Days Gone. Really just straight off the bat I want to say this is a really good game. Not to show all my cards in my hand, but I really enjoyed this game. So what we do here for video games is we have a 5-category scale with a bonus round as well. Those 5 categories being immersion, graphics, entertainment, content, and gameplay. The bonus round being how much the game is valued. And this basically is defined as what the game is worth in a numerical sense on no matter what the game gets rating-wise, what a good price to purchase the game would be no matter what. So jumping right into it for the first category, that's immersion. I felt like this game really grabs you by the throat and basically throws you into this universe. It's a post-apocalyptic game. You're in basically the reconstruction of the United States, or what was left of it. Obviously, there is zombies in this game, if you haven't seen it yet or heard anything about this game. Post-apocalyptic zombies category. When I went into this game and I knew about that, I'm not the biggest fan of zombie content. I kind of think it's overdone and overrated, and everything's been kind of mixed in and overtold and overplayed within the zombie community, within that context. So I kind of was coming in here with literally no expectations, and coming from a expectation of being underwhelmed. That was definitely not the case by any means whatsoever. The way that they tell this story is that these zombies are kind of a side effect. They're kind of on the sidelines. They're definitely not the main element. Obviously, they drive the narrative of the post-apocalyptic world and why it's so difficult to rebuild the communities that you visit and rebuild the civilization that you're in. And then also it tugs and pulls on the relationships that you build, both from before Days Gone, so before the basically end of the world, and then also after, the new people that you meet as well, and the people that you come in contact with. Overall, they did a really good job not focusing on the zombies as the end-all be-all, but more the character development. This game, in line with Immersion, it uses video games, the platform, to tell an amazing story. Because ultimately that's what video games are meant for entertainment, but they're a platform for storytelling, and this game does it almost seamlessly. So I gave the Immersion a 9 out of 10 for this category. I thought it was near perfect. The only thing that I didn't like is that there was a couple issues with the bike that you drive. I did experience some clipping, and sometimes the way I was driving, if I was too close to an object, it would act like I hit the object. So there's just a couple of glitch and technical issues through playing the game. So I couldn't really give it a full 10, but nothing to drag the overall score down dramatically. So definitely 9 out of 10, definitely a solid A on Immersion. The next category is graphics. With this category, it's usually the visual appeal to it. Going back and looking through my notes and looking at the point system, I may have been a little bit too harsh on the graphics for this one. I gave it an 8 out of 10. And just thinking about this game, I never really had a real big issue with the way it looked. I think there was a dependency on vehicles and just the way that you can customize the bike, but sometimes it doesn't come across as viewable when you're actually sitting on the bike, because that's basically his signature transportation is the motorcycle. Obviously, you can run around on foot as well, but I really don't have much of an issue with the graphics, but I did give it an 8 out of 10. I think if I could change that after doing a second look at the game, coming back a little bit after I posted the review and basically re-glancing at the game, it does look better than what I remember. So maybe that should push to a 9, but we're just going to go ahead and keep it at an 8 out of 10. But overall, the game looks great. I couldn't say that it breaks any major grounds. I think that, especially with the videos that it would play once you got to a certain point in the storyline, I think I was disappointed in some aspects of how the characters move, how the characters react to wounds or pain. I kind of felt like it was all very vegetable-like, very stiff, very animatronic almost. They would just hold their side or hold the part that they were complaining about, and that was it. There was no real lifelike motion when it came to that kind of stuff. So that may have been why I was definitely a little bit harsher on the graphics. But overall, the game looks decent enough. It's a solid game for the PlayStation. It's a solid visual appeal for the time and point when it came out. Nothing groundbreaking, though, in that aspect, and I think that's why I gave it an above-average score. The next category is entertainment. This game, by far, is definitely captivating and entertaining. Like I said before in the immersion section, this game does a great job at storytelling, and I'm a very big sucker for storytelling. And also, it's open world, so that's also another one where it gets extra bonus points for being open world. The quests are not mandatory. You can pick and choose those, move it along. There are side quests as well, which I did most every one of the side quests. There's also side main storylines, and what I mean by that is obviously you have a main storyline that the whole game is dedicated towards, but there's also side paths to where that main narrative splits off. The main 3 is, without any spoilers, the main objective is basically regrouping with your close brother or your close friend, which you basically treat as a brother, reconnecting with the communities at large and reestablishing a stronger foothold in the area. And then another side tangent is basically gathering as much information as to what's going on with the zombies and how they created and looking into mutations that they're going through. So it's basically a way of them giving exposition to how you've gotten here. If I remember correctly, the game starts out as like 2 to 3 years after the beginning of the zombies. So basically they use that third track to provide exposition from day 0 to where you're at now, and then a little bit of a glimpse into the future. The game definitely leaves the storyline open for any kind of DLC content or a follow-up game, which I really cannot wait for. And I would highly recommend, if you haven't played this game or gotten this game, to get it, just so that you're prepared for any kind of follow-up content that they produce. Right now, I haven't seen much DLCs. I think they've released a couple of like kind of skins for the bike and a couple other weapons, but I don't think they've done anything major content-wise. But overall, great, entertaining game. Even just driving through the world is entertaining because you have the motorcycle. You can customize the look of the motorcycle, which does come off a little bit, but I think it would be better if they made it more vibrant, or you could see it through the character a little bit better. But overall, great, entertaining game. I gave this one a 9 out of 10. Obviously not perfect score, but very, very entertaining. Definitely an A for that category. I just got sucked into this game and couldn't put it down. I think, and we'll get into this more, but I think I put over 100 hours into this game just because I couldn't put it down. I kept playing and playing and playing. And the good thing is that the storyline allows you to do this. You don't just get bored, and you don't just feel repetitive in any means that I can remember. The next thing, moving into that subject of gameplay and putting in 100 hours into this game, is the category of content. Now, obviously it's hard to get any kind of a perk score. The 10 out of 10 is really difficult, but I felt like this game justified the 10 out of 10 for content just because of how long and elaborate the storylines are. There was at least 3 or 4 times where I thought, okay, it has to end here. Like, this has got to be the end. And then that just broke broke way and for the floodgates to open up a whole new storyline and a whole new pivot to the to where you thought you were. In the grand scheme of things, relationship-wise within the communities, a reflection on the character himself that you get to play, which his name's Deacon St. John. So it's just, they did a great job at keeping you basically at the edge of your seat the entire time. Because right when you thought that you've eaten all the content, right when you thought, okay, it's going to roll credits after this, the game just pivots to something else and to another thing that tacks on, either as a result of you resolving that issue or as just a complete spin on the game just to keep you guessing. I think they kind of highlighted, and I really hope that they did that, just because of the volatility of the world that you're in, how crazy it is, because obviously you have issues with communities trying to grow and maintain themselves in the harsh environment. You obviously have zombies, which are powerful in and of themselves, but then they can also hoard together where there's hundreds of zombies at the same time. And they did a really good job in balancing that to where you actually have to be careful around zombies. You actually have to make sure that you're playing smart and you're not just blitzing through things. So they did a really good job on that content-wise, but also just the characters. There's a lot of character development. There's a lot of nuances with how your character reacts with things. And then I love how they did they tied in the expositional storyline with the projection of the future. And without giving any spoilers, there's just a really good storyline there. It's a really good skeleton structure that they built on, and it just tacks onto there. So not only can you follow these storylines, but there's also side quests for the communities that you're working with to try and make them more stable. You can also save people that's out in the open world outside of these communities, and you can tell them where you want them to go. So you have kind of a rapport with the communities, and if you want to increase that rapport or you want to make money or something like that, depending on where you go, you can get a kickback or a reward from that community. And then even within that, there's kind of like a political system on one of those communities actually won't reward you at all because they believe that you should just do good things out of the goodness of your heart. So they actually have no reward. So if you give if you tell the person to go that way, then basically you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart, and they won't give you any kickback. And so it's kind of cool how they edged out each community to have their own thought process. It's almost like a different country that you go into with each of these little towns. They have their own philosophy. They have their complete own way of doing things. And that's why I really think the content deserves a 10 out of 10, just because of the nuances that they put into this. Also, you deal a little bit with the government, or what you think is the government, what's left of the government. So that's the way of them giving exposition, the way of them flashing forward. Then also you deal within your own community, you and your best friend, which basically is your brother. Both of you guys have your own place where you need to stay or where you're from, and you kind of are loners out in this world. And due to that, you've built in your own culture, your own community, and that clashes with a lot of people that are around the surrounding area, because you like to do your own thing, you like to be on your own, and that definitely plays out really great within the character development of this. And then also just the scale of the map within content. Like I said before, the game would just pivot when I thought it was going to end. The same thing happens with the map. They did a really good job of not showing you everything on the map right away. The original map looks kind of small, but it still gives you room to kind of play around and move around and stuff. Then you start following the progression of the storyline, and it starts leaking out to a new section that you didn't even notice, you didn't even know about. And then once you start fixing up the entire map, once you start fixing up the areas, a whole nother section opens up. And then you think, or personally I thought, this new section, he's just going to ride off into the sunset, and then that's how it's going to end the game. But actually that just opens you up to doubling the size of the map, basically. And then you get to work in this whole new area, which I thought was a great job of them hiding the content so that it doesn't seem like you're eventually going to get there, but eventually you do, which is a really rewarding thing. I really hope that they did that intentionally just to give you the sense of the volatility of the world, because it's very, very good how they made the world feel like everything's out to eat you. Everything's out to get you, because not only are you dealing with the zombies and them hoarding up, but then you also have other communities that are just bent on anarchy, and then you have to deal with those people on top of that. So it's just a really, really balanced game on what I feel like would be an accurate representation in a basically deconstructed social order. How some communities would obviously band together, but they would band together under their own flag and their own creed and their own philosophies, and then there would just be some people out there that would just band together in the name of anarchy and destruction and doing whatever they wanted. And then obviously the zombies are kind of sprinkled on the top, which kind of gives the almost the structure, the foundation of the reasoning of why all this was caused. But they sprinkle it on. It's not like shoved down your throat like this is the end all be all, which I really, really appreciated. They did the zombie flair in almost a tasteful way. Like, it's not, and I can't stress this out enough, it's not the end all be all, but it is a necessary element to justify all the character development, which is the primary thing. The primary skeleton of the storyline is the character development, specifically of the main character, Deacon St. John, which is great. I love that. Last is gameplay, and this is basically the control of the character and the environment as a whole, how it interacts. And I mentioned clipping before with the bike. There wasn't really that much that I experienced. There was a little bit, but nowhere near as bad to break immersion or break the game. I gave this one a 9 out of 10. I just didn't feel like it justified a full 10, just because there was no major mechanical things that was really groundbreaking. There's no, other than the zombie hordes, which I really liked, there wasn't really anything crazy new. It was still like a third-person shooter. There were still the options of, completing a mission, going in hot and just guns blazing, destroying everything, which you still can do with a zombie horde. It just, you're dealing with hundreds of NPCs instead of one or two. You can also go stealth. You can silently kill things. You can go through bushes and hide and creep around. So it's still your basic, like, third-person kind of adventure game. Very similar to anything like Red Dead Redemption or Uncharted, Grand Theft Auto, any kind of like third-person control console game. That's primary console game. It's definitely that same feel to it, that same engine, that same mode. So nothing on that scale was groundbreaking. I mean, your triggers, pull up the gun and shoot the gun. Very, very similar to that. Obviously, you have the ability to decide on how you want to tackle the problem, but you're still held down to that same scope. Do I want to be creative and sneak into this place, or do I want to just go guns blazing? So I didn't really feel there was anything groundbreaking to earn the 10, but the character was controllable. And the reason why I think I gave it such a good percentage or a good rating, the 9 out of 10, is the feel of the bike. The feel of the bike was amazing. The driving of the bike, the drifting, you basically kind of put a boost on it. That was amazing. The joy riding through the game, they really, really spent some time on that and made sure that was perfect and meticulous, because that is a signature of the main character, is his bike. And you basically can build your bike from the ground up, improve it, upgrade it, customize it. So the bike is definitely a signature move, and I'm so glad they spent time on that, because, I mean, obviously you can decide to walk, and you can also decide to fast travel, but there are some times in the game to where joyriding is very nice and relaxing and entertaining. And I'm not even a motorcycle fan myself, and I still enjoyed thoroughly what they did with the mechanics of the bike. So overall, the gameplay was pretty solid, and I enjoyed that. Lastly is the bonus round, and the bonus round being the value of the game. honestly, even though the game's really cheap right now, I would value this as a full price game. It has enough content to justify that price sticker. Not only that, but it's definitely comes in as an underdog. Definitely comes in as something that didn't peg my radar. I kind of just picked it up because I had nothing else to play. It was a brand new game for the PlayStation, and I just wanted to try it. I watched a couple of videos on it, and I thought it was cool. It was open world. It was that, adventure game that I kind of like, that category. But I would have never guessed in a million years the quality of the game itself. And I can't wait for the next one to come out or any kind of DLCs that they produce. So I would definitely, if you can get it for anything, grab this game and play it, especially if you have a PlayStation 4, because I think that's the only console that it's on right now. I could be wrong about that. There could be an update on that one. But basically, get this game. There's no way up, down, left, or right about it unless you really hate zombies or violent video games. This is a great game. Because you can put the difficulty at casual and still pretty much streamline through it if you're not a major third-person shooter. It's still an easy game to play through on the casual setting. So taking all those 5 categories, adding them up, this game earned a 9.2 out of 10, which I feel is a solid score for this one. I don't think this game is perfect by any means, and that's why it got a lower end on the 9. But this game is so solid that I highly recommend a full price point, which I think you can still get this game. I think you can get this game for like $20, and for that, it's an amazing steal. One of my most favorite games for the PlayStation right now, for sure, especially being a new, unheard of title. It's an overall great game, and I highly, highly recommend it if you haven't played it. But with the 9.2 and the $60 price point that it's worth, that pretty much wraps up the end of this review. Please don't forget to like, subscribe. Also leave me a comment if you played the game or if you have any additional comments. If you agree with me, disagree with me, just go ahead and tell me why in those comments down below. I appreciate it. Also go ahead and leave me a comment on any additional games you'd like to see me review or play. As always, keep on playing and have a great day.